In the year 1787, an emperor in Vienna did something that would quietly reshape millions of family trees for centuries to come, including, quite possibly, yours. For most of history, the Jews of Central and Eastern Europe had no fixed last names at all. A man was simply David, son of Isaac. A woman was Miriam, daughter of Aaron. The family name as we know it did not exist. But the Austro-Hungarian Empire wanted its Jews counted, taxed, and drafted, and you cannot tax a man who has no surname on a list. So the Emperor Joseph II issued a decree: every Jewish family must take a permanent, German-sounding last name. Other empires soon followed. And in the space of a few decades, an entire people who had never carried surnames suddenly had to choose one or have one assigned to them. Sometimes by a board clerk, sometimes for a fee, sometimes at random. They chose names for stones and flowers, for colors and trades, for mountains and trees. And here is the part that matters to you. Those names Stein, Roth, Klein, Gross, Berg became some of the most ordinary-sounding surnames in the Western world. So ordinary that millions carry them today, with no idea the name was forged in that moment, inside a Jewish community handed an identity by force. Today we count down 15 of them. Count how many are in your own family tree. Before we begin, one honest word, because this channel does not deal in fairy tales, and this point is more important here than on any list we have ever done. These names are German, and most of them were carried by far more non-Jewish Germans than Jews. So hear me clearly, having one of these names does not make you Jewish. The logic only runs one way. Many Jews took these names, but most people with these names are not Jewish. Just as most Jews have 10 fingers, yet most people with 10 fingers are not Jewish. What a name like this gives you is not an answer. It is a question worth asking, especially when it sits alongside a family that came from Germany, Austria, Hungary, or the old Russian Empire, and a story that was never quite explained. And if by the end of this you find yourself asking that question seriously, we built the exact tool to help you answer it: your Jewish roots. A step-by-step discovery kit, with a companion database of hundreds of documented Jewish surnames you can check your own name against. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Keep it in mind as we count. Now let us begin. Number 15. Wise. We start with a name that sounds about as English as a name can be. Wise. It calls to mind Old English virtue, a wise man, a sage. But for a great many American families, Wise is an anglicization, a smoothing out of the German and Jewish name Weiss, meaning white, or Weiss, or Weiss. When Jewish immigrants arrived in America from German-speaking lands, Weiss became Wise in a single stroke, perfectly camouflaged as an Old Anglo name. One of the most influential rabbis in all of American history was Isaac Mayer Wise, the architect of Reform Judaism in the United States, born Weiss in Bohemia. If your family is named Wise and came out of Central Europe, the wisdom in your name may be written in a different alphabet than you ever realized. Number 14. Stein. Stein simply means stone in German, and it is one of the cornerstone elements of Jewish surnames, quite literally, because it appears at the end of so many of them: Goldstein, Silberstein, Bernstein, Rubenstein, Einstein. On its own, Stein was also taken as a full surname, and it was frequently an occupational name tied to jewelers and those who worked with precious stones. The name belonged to the writer Gertrude Stein, the towering figure of the Paris avant-garde, who came from a German Jewish family. And the name in its longer form, Einstein meaning, roughly, one stone, and associated with the trade of masonry, belonged to the most famous mind of the 20th century, Albert Einstein, the son of a German Jewish family. If your name is Stein, or ends in Stein, you are carrying one of the most characteristic building blocks of Ashkenazi Jewish identity. Number 13. Roth. Roth means red in German, and it most often began as a nickname for an ancestor with red hair or a red beard. It is a short, hard, ordinary-sounding name, and it became enormously common among Ashkenazi Jews. But Roth's most famous appearance is hidden inside another name entirely. The Rothschild family, the most legendary banking dynasty in history, took their name from the red shield, the Rothschild, that hung outside their ancestral house in the Frankfurt Jewish ghetto. That single red sign became one of the most recognized names on earth. The name Roth also belonged to the great American novelist Philip Roth, chronicler of Jewish American life. If your family carries Roth, the red in your name may reach back to a house in a Frankfurt ghetto, or simply to a red-haired ancestor whose color became your identity. Number 12. Berg. Berg means mountain, and like Stein, it is one of the great building blocks of Ashkenazi surnames, the ending of Goldberg, Rosenberg, Greenberg, Weinberg, and 100 others. But Berg also stands alone as a surname, a place name suggesting a family from a hilly or mountainous place. It is overwhelmingly associated with Ashkenazi Jewish families from Germany and Eastern Europe. From the entertainment world to the worlds of science and letters, the Bergs and the names built on Berg run all through modern Jewish history. If your name is Berg, or carries Berg within it, your family planted its identity on a German mountainside, at least in language. Number 11. Gross. Gross means big or large in German, and it is one of a small family of blunt, descriptive, single-syllable names that are strongly associated with Jews of Hungarian and Central European heritage names like Schwarz for black, Weiss for white, Klein for small, and Gross for big. These were among the most common descriptive surnames handed out and adopted during the forced registrations. A clerk needed a name. The man was large. The name was Gross. It is plain, it is ordinary, and across the Hungarian Jewish world especially, it is deeply common. If your family is named Gross and traces to Hungary or its neighbors, that blunt little name may carry a Jewish past. Number 10. Klein. Klein is the mirror image of Gross. It means small in German, and it may be the single most common of all the descriptive Jewish surnames. Across the Ashkenazi world, and especially among Hungarian Jews, Klein is everywhere. It is so common that it became almost a shorthand for a Jewish surname of that classic Central European type. In the modern world, the name reaches global fame through the designer Calvin Klein, born to a Hungarian Jewish family in the Bronx. But behind that one famous name stand hundreds of thousands of ordinary Klein families whose small name carried a large history. If your family is Klein, you carry one of the most recognizably Ashkenazi surnames there is. Number 9. Baker. Now we turn to a name that hides in plain sight as pure English working class. Baker. It sounds like a trade your ancestors might have practiced in any English village. And for most bakers, that is exactly what it is. But for a meaningful number of Jewish families, Baker is an anglicization and English translation or respelling of the German Becker, also meaning baker, a name carried by Jewish families from German-speaking lands who simply translated their trade name into English on arrival in America or Britain. The occupation crossed languages, and the Jewish thread vanished into one of the most common English surnames there is. If your Baker family came from Central Europe rather than the English countryside, the bread in your name may have been baked in a different country. If even one of these names has made you pause, if you are starting to wonder about your own family, that is exactly what the Your Jewish Roots Kit and its surname database were built for, to check your name and trace where it actually leads. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Now, back to the countdown. Number 8. Fox. Fox is another name that wears a perfect English disguise. The fox. The clever animal of English folklore, what could be more native to the language. But fox, for many Jewish families, is an anglicization of the German Fuchs, which also means fox, and which was a common Ashkenazi surname. When Fuchs families came to the English-speaking world, the name translated itself cleanly into fox, and the Jewish origin disappeared into the underbrush. The film studio that became 20th Century Fox traces to William Fox, born Vilmos Fried to a Hungarian Jewish family. If your family is named Fox and came from German-speaking Europe, the clever animal in your name may have started as a Fuchs. Number 7. Marshall. Marshall sounds unmistakably Anglo, a grand old English and Scottish name, suggesting knights in high office, a marshal of the realm. And for most marshals, it is precisely that. But Marshall is also a name that a number of Jewish immigrant families adopted upon arriving in the English-speaking world, choosing a dignified, established-sounding surname to replace a more obviously foreign one, sometimes one that began with the same sound, like Marshak, a distinguished Ashkenazi name that is itself an acronym honoring a rabbinic ancestor. The Grand English name became a shelter. If your Marshall family arrived from Eastern Europe rather than the British Isles, the knightly name may have been chosen to help a Jewish family blend into a new world. Number 6. Black. Black is one of the most common surnames in the English-speaking world, and the overwhelming majority of blacks have deep English or Scottish roots. But Black is also a frequent translation name for Jewish immigrants, whose original surname was Schwartz, the German and Yiddish word for black, or a similar dark, meaning name. Schwartz became black in English the way Stein became stone, and Weiss became white. It was a clean translation that erased the foreignness of the name in a single step. So while most blacks are not Jewish, a real subset of American black families began as Schwartz in the Old Country. If your black family came through Ellis Island from German-speaking or Eastern Europe, the color in your name may have changed languages along the way. Number 5. Gordon. Gordon is fascinating because it is a genuine puzzle, a name that is both a famous Scottish clan name and a common Jewish surname, with almost nothing connecting the two except coincidence. For Jews, Gordon most likely derives from the city of Grodno, in present-day Belarus, a major center of Jewish life, the name marking a family that came from Grodno. Some scholars also tie it to a Russian word for townsman. Either way, Gordon became a widespread Jewish surname across the Russian Empire, and it carried beautifully into the English-speaking world precisely because it already sounded like a respectable Scottish name. A Jewish Gordon from Grodno and a Scottish Gordon from the Highlands could stand side by side, and no one would know the difference. If your family is Gordon and traces east rather than to Scotland, your name may point straight back to the Jewish community of Grodno. Number 4. Marx. Marx is a name forever attached to one man, Karl Marx, the philosopher who reshaped the modern world, and his story is itself a hidden ancestry story. Karl Marx was born into a family of rabbis. His grandfather was a rabbi, and the family name ran deep in the Jewish community before his father converted to Christianity. The surname Marx derives from the Latin name Marcus, ultimately tied to the Roman god Mars, and it became a common Jewish surname in the German lands. The name also belonged to the Marx Brothers, the legendary American comedy troupe, sons of Jewish immigrants. If your family carries Marx, the name sits at the crossroads of Jewish history and the modern age in a way few names do. Number 3. Wolf. Wolf is one of the oldest and most resonant of the Jewish animal names. The wolf carried deep meaning in Jewish tradition, long associated with the biblical tribe of Benjamin, whom the patriarch Jacob blessed as a wolf. For that reason, wolf and its forms wolf, wolf, and the Yiddish-linked name Zev, which simply means wolf in Hebrew, became a beloved and common Jewish surname and first name across the Ashkenazi world. It was often paired, so that a man might be Benjamin Wolf, carrying the tribe and its symbol together. If your family is named Wolf or Wolf, the animal in your name may run all the way back to one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Number 2. Singer. Singer sounds like the gentlest of occupational names, or the name on an old sewing machine. But in the Jewish world, singer most often points to a very specific and sacred role: the cantor, the singer who leads the prayers in the synagogue, whose voice carries the congregation's worship. A family of cantors might well become a family named Singer. The name is strongly associated with Ashkenazi Jewish families, and its most luminous bearer was Isaac Bashevis Singer, the Yiddish novelist who won the Nobel Prize in Literature, chronicling a Jewish world that the 20th century nearly erased. If your family is named Singer, the voice in your name may once have led prayers in a synagogue in Poland or Galicia. Number 1. Bloom. We end with a name that is quietly beautiful. Bloom and its fuller forms Bloom, Bloomberg, Blumenthal, Blumenfeld comes from the German word for flower. Bloom, flower names and nature names were among the most popular choices when Jewish families were forced to take surnames. Part of a wave of gentle, romantic, natural names, flowers, trees, leaves, and blossoms. Bloom became one of the most common and most recognizable of these, carried widely by Ashkenazi Jewish families, and then anglicized smoothly from bloom to bloom in the English-speaking world. It is no accident that the central character of one of the greatest novels in the English language, James Joyce's Ulysses, is Leopold Bloom, a Jewish man in Dublin, given a name Joyce knew his readers would recognize as Jewish. If your family carries Bloom or Bloom, your name is a flower that was planted, deliberately, by ancestors making beauty out of a moment of force. So there they are, 15 ordinary names hiding an extraordinary history. Wise, Stein, Roth, Berg, Gross, Klein, Baker, Fox, Marshall, Black, Gordon, Marks, Wolf, Singer, and Bloom. How many are in your family tree? Tell me in the comments which name was yours and where your family came from, because the stories people share on these videos are some of the most remarkable things I read. And remember the honest truth I gave you at the start, because it is the key to all of this. A German surname is not proof of anything on its own. Most people who carry these names are not Jewish. But when one of these names sits in a family that came from Germany, Austria, Hungary, or the old Russian Empire, alongside a tradition nobody could explain or a story that never quite added up, it stops being just a name and starts being a clue. A name is a thread, not a verdict. The way you find out where the thread leads is through the records, the customs, and the Dina, and that is exactly what we built your Jewish roots to help you do, step by step, with the companion surname database to check your own name and the names of everyone in your tree. If one of these names was yours, this is your next move. Check the link in the description and the pinned comment, and start tracing your story today. If these are the histories that fascinate you, the buried names, the forced choices, the identities hidden inside ordinary words, then consider subscribing, and follow that link if you want to uncover your own. That is the real reason we are here. Thank you for watching. Until next time, every people has a story they were never told. Maybe yours is hiding in your own last name.